Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello, everybody. This is Carrie with the Unicorn Company podcast. And today we are doing a double feature of sorts. We are going to be looking at the new Ironwind Metals Cat Mk IV, or the Savage Wolf if you're a dirty clanner. And we are going to be doing a mech tech about it because it is Mechtober. That's right. So I know I haven't gotten off to a good start this month, but I wanted to go ahead and get started strong. And in order to do that, we are going to be talking about this miniature and the mech that it's for. So first of all, let's take a look at the miniature itself. We get with this the ability to build either the Cat Mk IV Prime or the Cat Mk IV A. Now, this miniature normally retails for $23.95 from Ironwind Metals, but if you go through our sponsor, Fortress Miniatures and Games, you can get it for $19.16. And first of all, I just want to say that the amount of detail they have been able to put into this miniature is amazing. And I'm not just saying that because it's new and it's neat, but it is really amazing. And to be fair, it is a step up from what Ironwind Metals had out before. And I'm sure if any of you are familiar with the original Cat Mk IV miniature, you will know it is a total pain in the ass to keep together, or even put together for that matter. There is so much pinning involved, you may as well run Myanmar through the body at that point. So, starting off with the Prime, the miniature itself is overall a really good quality. And I do think they did an amazing job with the details. There are a few things that you'll notice in the 360 rotational here that do stand out. The first of these is when you're looking at the back side, you will definitely see a mold line through the right side missile launcher on the rear. This is something that I don't really think is a big problem because it's pretty easy to clean up from how it looks. And otherwise, it's pretty solid. There aren't any apparent mold lines other than that one that sticks out on the 360 view. Although, if you do look at your miniature from the top down, you will notice a mold line along the top of each of the missile launchers. This isn't really a problem, though, as they're pretty easy to clean up. The other thing you'll notice is on the back side of each arm, there is a large flat area, and this is where the connection points are. Now, for the most part, the connection points for the sprue, if it's even still called a sprue when it's that small, but I guess it is. The connection points are rather large on the backs of the arms, so you can't just use a hobby knife or anything to cut them off. You will need to use a dedicated clipper, and there is some cleanup involved with that. Although a hobby knife I found was sufficient to get it done. And overall, this miniature is very much true to the configuration that you find in BattleTech. Now, the other miniature that we're looking at is obviously, it's the same miniature. They both come in the same package. But the only difference physically on this miniature are the missile launchers. And once again, they've done an amazing job. You have the same issue with the back of the arm clipping because that's the same miniature. It's nothing that you can really do anything about. You also do have the mold lines on the top of the missile launchers, which I think that has something to do pretty much with just how they've designed that mold. You don't have the mold line across the back of the launcher, which is a good thing. I mean, obviously. And one of the things that'll be brought up is the A does have 4 small lasers. Now, while you look at the rotation of these, you'll notice from the front you can see what are essentially 4 little, I don't want to call them blisters, but they're small openings, 2 under the center torso and 1 on each side. Now, this is on both of the Prime and the A variant as far as the miniature. And the A variant has 4 small lasers. I think they're ER small, they might be pulse. I don't remember off the top of my head. We will cover that in the MechTech later on. But this allows for those blisters or those openings to either remain dark, so they look like some kind of vent, or you can go ahead and just using a little bit of paint, make them look like those lasers, as almost like this was planned. Like, they can either look like vents or they can look like the openings for small lasers. So, I mean, it's really not an in-depth review, and that's why we're going to be doing a mech tech with this too, because I want to cover this mech. I think it's an interesting design, not because of all the goodies on it, but, well, I'll explain when we get to the mech tech. But overall, I mean, for the price, and mind you, yes, you're going to sit there and say to yourself, well, $20, I can almost buy a force pack with that. Yes, you can. But $20 is also what you generally get charged for a premium miniature. And quite frankly, Ironwind Metals has once again knocked it out of the park with this and created what is essentially a premium metal miniature of the Mad Cat Mark IV. And also, if I recall correctly, the Mad Cat Mark IV is what we will be seeing in the third Star League Force Pack, or you can have one right now. Now, also, I do want to go real quick, and we're going to look at some still shots here of the Mad Cat Mark IV, the Prime and the A, that we can kind of take a look at them without trying to see stuff moving around. And I have included this one here. Now, this is the Mad Cat Mark IV with it's both of the variants, with the Mad Cat Prime in plastic, which, by the way, Ironwind Metals, if you are listening, first of all, I want to say, please give us a Mad Cat, like a standard Mad Cat with a bunch of different options for different loadouts. That would be so nice. And the other thing is, if this is the quality of the Mad Cat Mark IV, I cannot wait to see. I think it's the Vulture Mark IV uses similar arm pods and legs, which means we're literally looking at a torso swap. So I cannot wait to see what that looks like as well. So that covers the miniature. And like I said, I think this is a wonderful miniature. It's really good for the price. It's metal. It's highly detailed. It just looks amazing and is well sized compared to everything else that's already out. So we got to pay the bills, and we have some ads from our sponsors coming up. After that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Mad Cat Mark IV, the mech, not the mini.
Hey there, Mechwarrior. Do you need mechs and accessories for your battlefield? Well, if you do, check out FortressMiniaturesandGames.com. They have just about everything you need, from battle mechs to drop ships. Buy them individually from suppliers like Ironwind Metals or Catalyst Game Labs, or even get whole lances and stars at a time to support your unit. With over 20 suppliers to choose from, they'll have just about anything you need for the modern mercenary. Check them out at FortressMiniaturesandGames.com.
Hello, I am Arthur Drake Pendragon Basalt Davian, Duke of Ambergrove. And I have been informed that in order to feed the peasantry, we need to make more money. And because of that, I want to tell you about the Scrapyard Ork. The Scrapyard Ork has a variety of dice for different games that you may find enjoyable. They are high quality and only the best, which is the only thing I will use. So, when I'm not defending my world from periphery scum, I like to use dice from the Scrapyard Ork. Alright, can we get back to hunting the Torns now? Hi there, Carrie here. I want to thank you for listening so far. If you'd like to support what we do here, then check us out at patreon.com/unicorn company. Every little bit helps. And also, if you do like our content, please do like, subscribe, and hit the little bell so you can see what else comes out in the future. Alright, so I appreciate all of you sticking around, and I want to talk about the Mad Cat Mark IV. Now, when we look at Mad Cats, they've sort of become the Space Marine of BattleTech. You have the Mad Cat, the original Mad Cat from the Clan Invasion, something that is iconic and, quite frankly, is one of the faces of BattleTech at this point. And this mech has so many configurations. Like if you look at it in not Alpha Strike, in the master unit list, which I guess looking at it in Alpha Strike, there are more variants than you could throw a stick at. I mean, we've got variants all the way out to like, before you get like to the weird experimentals and stuff, you have all the way out to the S, and then you have an underwater Mad Cat for crying out loud. You have experimental Mad Cats. You have Mad Cats built for city fighting, Mad Cats built for long range, missile boat Mad Cats. I think there's a missile boat Mad Cat, heavy laser Mad Cats. You have a Mad Cat. Oh, you have a Mad Cat with a C3I system because Comstar decided that they wanted to go ahead and make a big return during the fall of the Republic. There are Mad Cats for just about any situation out there, for any need that you might have. And quite frankly, you would think that this covers all the Mad Cats you're ever going to need, right? No. Because Clan Sea Fox, I think they were still called Diamond Shark at the time, decided that they wanted to sell Mad Cats. And Clan Wolf, obviously, did not like this idea, so they just cranked it up to 11, put out a Assault Mad Cat, which, is tradition, just like the Marauder and the Marauder 2 and the Marauder 2C and the Warhammer and Warhammer 2C. And yeah, generally speaking, when you want to redo a design, you go ahead and up it to the next weight class. I can't wait to see the Mad Cat. Well, no, we already have that. Mad Cat 5? Yeah, Mad Cat 5, 150 tons of destruction. That's what we need. Anyway, going on to the Mad Cat, we then have the Mad Cat Mark II, which is obviously an assault machine that was sold to the Inner Sphere by Clan Sea Fox. And that wasn't enough. Nope, we needed a third Mad Cat. Now, this is where you would normally go up a weight class, because why not? No, we went down. So we have the Mad Cat 3, which is a medium mech, which is also very common in the Inner Sphere. And essentially pulls an Uziel. And I say that because if you ever look at the Uziel and the Warhammer, the Uziel is, I like to refer to it as the baby Warhammer, because it's a medium weight mech that is just as capable as the original 3025 Warhammer in a smaller package, which I think is cool. And the Mad Cat Mark III, or Mad Cat 3, it doesn't have Mark before it, which is weird, but the Mad Cat 3, also cool. And quite frankly, it's a very capable medium mech. You could run a list that is all Mad Cats and cover every weight class. So we have the Mad Cat Mark II, which is a big, giant, brawny, long-range sniper of a mech. The Mad Cat Mark III, which takes the Mad Cat and shrinks it down into a bite-sized version of itself. And then, because the Sea Foxes still wanted to sell Mad Cats, they teamed up with Clan Jade Falcon to build the Mad Cat Mark IV. Now, apparently, they did that in secret because, Malvina Hazen was a little bit on the on the psychotic side, but eventually it came out and they ended that relationship. So Clan Jade Falcon ended up with a standard version of the Mad Cat Mark IV, which was short-lived, and then Clan Sea Fox just sold the Mad Cat Mark IV to everybody, so that means that you can have an Omni-Mech version and never need the standard version. So just like the Sea Foxes, we're going to ignore that one, although there will be Alpha Strike cards for it in the Patreon. So now we have the Mad Cat Mark IV. And the Mad Cat Mark IV is an interesting machine. I know, we've taken a while to get here, and I do apologize about that, but I think there's good reason. We needed to talk about it. There's a history for this thing. There are so many Mad Cats. Like, I am really shocked that the clans have not just gone to producing a variety of different mechs and just throwing a mark number after it and calling it a Mad Cat. Because the 2 missile pods, 2 arms with no hands and primary weapons seems to be the way to go. At least as far as the clans are concerned. And quite frankly, the Sea Foxes have an image thing, and they're like, we could always make this look better for the Inner Sphere. They'll buy it. It's clan tech. They'll buy anything that we build. And they're not wrong. I mean, the, was it Ha-Toko, I believe? The Bladed Man? Yep, they can sell anything to the Inner Sphere. And this is why they made the Mad Cat Mark IV. So the Mad Cat Mark IV was first produced in 3136. And it uses a number of new technologies to make it a little bit beefier and a little bit, well, it doesn't go faster. Okay, so they traded off the ability to shrug off a side torso loss for ferrolamellar armor. Now, this, in my opinion, is a mixed bag of capabilities. Ferrolamellar in Classic, in normal BattleTech, is terrifyingly good. It reduces all damage that you take by 1, except for, I want to say, re-engineered lasers, ignore it. Now, that means that LBX weapons, cluster ammunition, does nothing. Silver bullet Gauss rifle, does nothing. SRMs go from 2 damage to 1 damage each. It is a terrifying technology. In Alpha Strike, not so much. It pretty much counts as standard armor. I want to say that you might get some more pips out of it, but it's not enough to really do anything. I do wish that it was an ability in Alpha Strike, because quite frankly, that would just make it incredibly terrifying, but you'd have to adjust the point cost, and things like the Mad Cat Mark IV would become prohibitively expensive. So, what is the Mad Cat Mark IV capable of? Well, before we even get to that, the other thing they needed to do to save weight was add endosteel structure. So the Mad Cat Mark IV is built on an endosteel structure. It is powered by an extremely vulnerable double XL engine, meaning that a side torso loss on this is the same as a side torso loss on the Rakshasa. Because why use that advantage? But then again, they've added so much weight to the base of the design as far as the defensive capabilities, and this causes the mech to essentially have 28 tons of space for weapons and equipment, which is not exceptional for a 75 tonner. It does retain the speed of 86 kilometers an hour, which is great. So it's still got the speed of a Mad Cat. It's essentially got the armor protection of a Mad Cat with the ability to negate single point weapons, like not SRMs, like LBX weapons and stuff like that. At least the cluster munitions, and it reduces everything else by 1. It is an amazingly decent mech. I know I say amazingly decent, but that's the thing. The trade-offs for it, yes, you have better defensive capabilities, but once you're through to the inner structure, you are fragile. You are super fragile. So in a way, it is trading early protection for late survivability. Now, looking at the Prime variant, they went with something very simple, very straightforward, and very brawlery. Now, with the fact that Inner Sphere clan ERPBCs do not have a minimum range, wishful thinking, actually none of them have minimum range. Yeah, so okay, cool. But since you have no minimum range on ERPBCs, the Sea Foxes went with a design that is essentially it's a close-range brawler with sniping capabilities. It has 2 ERPBCs, one of which is mounted in each arm, and it has 4 Streak SRM-6s. Now, you would think to yourself that because your enemy is primarily in front of you, that you would mount these SRM-6s to the front, which, to me, makes sense. To you, makes sense. But to the clans, who apparently don't know what sense is, they mounted 2 in the front and 2 in the rear. So it can deal with threats behind it, which, okay, cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like that is wasted damage potential for the mech in general. Because yes, you have a deterrent to people getting in the rear, but at the same time, that is not where your enemy's primarily going to be, and you can torso twist to shoot a PPC into the back arc, which, trust me, a 15 damage PPC to the face is far scarier than 2 streak SRM6s. Anyway, as far as BattleTech, it's a capable machine. It's terrifying in a way, but it also, like I said, the SRMs facing to the rear, I think, is a flaw. Although BattleTech is about flawed machines, and rarely, except for the Hellstar, because reasons, rarely is there a flawed machine. I mean, I guess the Hellstar was needed to make up for the Hell's Horse's deficiencies. But anyway. Now, looking at the mech in Alpha Strike, the Cat Mk IV Savage Wolf Prime is 52 points. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM of 2, has a movement of 10, it's a skirmisher, and a skill of 4. Oh, sorry, you don't need the skill. I'm looking at the card on Master Unit List, and my brain just went straight there. So for short and medium range, you have 5 damage, long is 3, no overheat value. The armor on this, and this is something we'll talk about in a minute, the armor on this, I want to say, it's 9, has 3 structure. Specials are arm, case, crit resistant, omni, and rear 2-2-0. So this mech in Alpha Strike. Okay, first of all, if a dasher runs up behind you, I believe there's a +1 to shoot to the rear arc, +1 for a secondary target, which means now you're at a +2, plus the dasher's mobility or TMM of 4. So it's a 6, plus your skill, so it's a 9. I mean, it could be better. You could primary shoot to the rear, I guess, and it would be an 8, but you know, that's what you have other mechs on the field for. You don't just leave yourself open to being shot in the back. You cover your lance mates or your star mates, and this is apparently built for that one person who just wants to Leroy Jenkins their way to the front line, and safety be damned. As far as the specials, arm is really nice, and I believe that's on all of the configurations. And arm lets you essentially ignore the first crit, which means on your first crit, if you ammo explode this thing with all of the stacked stuff, it's going to be interesting. So arm plus case plus crit resistant, I want to say you're getting a critical on ammo on a 4-up? It's either not a 4-up, but a 4 or a 3. So the first time you take a crit, though, you just cross it out. You just cross out arm, because that is your armored component, which there's some interesting things between BattleTech and Alpha Strike as far as conversions. And actually, I should talk about that one day, but anyway. So you have to ammo explode this thing twice, essentially, which is terrifying. But you are paying for durability in the structure. Now, we're going to talk about that, like I said, towards the end of this. We're only covering the Alpha, the Bravo, and the Charlie as far as variants. The 2 other ones, I'm going to release cards for them on the Kickstarter, but not Kickstarter, on the Patreon, but I'm not going to cover those. At least not on here. Now, the Alpha, is, I want to say, a nice little change from the Prime. In BattleTech, what makes it unique is that you sort of lose some of the oomph of the ERPPCs, but you gain some options. So in Classic, the PPCs are replaced by ER large lasers. So you're still able to lop the head off of an enemy mech, you just don't do it with 15 damage. Because I believe those are 12 damage apiece. I might be wrong. I don't play Classic that often anymore. I play Alpha Strike for the most part. You do have an Advanced Tactical Missile System 9 in each of the side torsos. And they've added 4 small pulse lasers. I mentioned these before when we talked about the miniature. You have 2 in the center torso and 1 in each side torso. Now, this allows the mech to essentially have a little bit of close range options, but I don't feel like they were necessary. The ATM-9 is nice in each side torso, though, as it gives you the capability to switch between high explosive ammunition, which is really brutal, standard, and I believe it's called extreme range, or I forget the name of the ammo load. So it gives you a great deal of tactical options, and you have 4 tons of ammunition, so you can carry all of them. And of course, all of the ammo is protected with case because it's a Clan Omni-Mech. So in Alpha Strike, as far as what you have there, you actually end up with something that is a little bit more, I don't know how to put it, a little bit more forward balanced, I guess. You're not shooting in the rear. You have most of your standard stuff, the Battle Mech size 3, TMM2, movement of 10. It's still a skirmisher. It still comes in at 55 points. I believe it's 3 points more. The mech has 6 damage at short, 5 at medium, 4 at long, with an overheat of 2. Same armor and structure, obviously, which comes out to a total of 12. You have arm, case, crit resistant, and omni. So it's really straightforward compared to the Prime. You don't have the rear firing weapons. You have the overheat of 2, so in the front you can technically fire up to 8 at short and 7 at medium. And once again, it's going to be hard to ammo explode this thing. And you can't kill it with the head crit either. It's just not going to want to go down, even though it barely has any structure. It's a frustrating machine. Now, the Bravo configuration of the Mad Cat Mark IV is a little different. This one is more or less built around a Hyper Assault Gauss Rifle 30, which is in the right arm, and it also has an Advanced Tactical Missile System 9 in the left torso with an improved heavy large laser in its arm. As far as this mech, and I'm going to talk about the miniature here a little bit too. As far as this mech, you can technically represent it by pulling on the A configuration. If you only put the missile launcher on the left torso, it already sort of represents it. Obviously, a different right arm would also be really nice to do that with, although I'm pretty sure that given the size of the weapon on the right arm, that can be said to be a Hyper Assault Gauss rifle any day of the week. Of course, what you may do is, instead of mounting the arm to the shoulder and then to the elbow, you could just mount, because the arm is a 2-piece part, mount the arm directly to the side of the mech, giving it a very asymmetric look. And you could probably rig up some kind of weapon assembly to go up onto the shoulder to look like an ammo drum or something like that, which I think would be really cool. Now, in Alpha Strike, this is also a pretty brutal machine. It's not too different, but it comes with some different capabilities, and it's very toolboxy. So it's Battle Mech size 3, TMM2, movement of 10, skirmisher with a skill. Well, you don't need the skill. It's 53 points. Short of 6, medium of 5, long of 3. No overheat value. Armor and structure the same. And its special abilities are arm, case 2, crit resistant, Flak 222, and Omni. Okay, so if you wanted something that is going to really irritate your opponent, that you cannot destroy with an ammo crit or with a head crit. I call it a head crit, it's just downs the machine on a 12, but we all know it's a head crit. Can shoot at your opponent's aircraft. This is the mech for you. Now, mind you, you can't overheat, so that's not as neat. But dear God, I mean, first of all, it has arms, so you ignore the first crit. Mind you, you only have 3 critical dots, so yeah. But if somebody gets that lucky crit through without destroying your armor first, that is just like something that could be a game changer is just all right. And they have to go through the whole routine of killing it. You can't roll a 2 or a 12. Well, yeah, you can't roll a 2 or 12 to kill it because it has case 2 and it has crit resistant. So it's just amazingly hard to do a quick knockdown on this machine. Now, the final configuration that we're going to look at is the Charlie configuration. And this one is very close to the older Mad Cat configurations. It has an ER large and ER medium laser in both of the arms. So it's very much like the Mad Cat in that way. Has an LRM-15 in each side torso. Once again, a lot like the old Mad Cat. It also has Case 2 and Artemis 5. Now, it does have a pair of medium pulse lasers in the center torso, giving it some short-range dedicated capabilities, but for the most part, it's already got that with, well, everything, because there are no minimums on the LRMs in the clans, and yeah, I mean, why even really worry about it at that point for having short-range weapons, right? So this in Classic is going to be a direct Mad Cat Prime replacement. It can do the job, and it can do the job very well, although, like I said before, once you're through the torso armor, this thing is going to go down like, oh, this thing, it's not going to have any chance. Once you're into the side torso, it's out. So as long as you're not through the side torso armor, this thing is beefy. It's tough. And then you get in the side torso and it crumples like a paper towel. In Alpha Strike, that story is a little bit different. The Charlie configuration is going to go through the stuff real quick. Battle Mech size 3, TMM2, movement of 10, missile boat, which surprises me. I mean, I would still think it's a skirmisher. 55 points. It's a 5.53 with 3 overheat. Armor and structure haven't changed, and its capabilities are arm, case 2, crit resistant, indirect fire 1, Omni, and overheat long. Okay, so let's talk about this design for a minute. First of all, if I'm going into a competitive environment where I can take an advanced design, it is the Mad Cat Mark IV C. This mech is essentially a better Timberwolf Prime. Now, mind you, the Timberwolf Prime is a good design, but in Alpha Strike, it's sort of like, okay. This one, that arm and case 2 and crit resistant just make it so much better in my opinion. Also, the fact that you can spike your damage all the way up to 8 at medium range is wonderful. So if you know you're about to go, you can go ahead and lay on it with the overheat 3 and try to take someone with you. I mean, this is Mad Cat peak performance right here as far as the prime configuration of the original turned up to 11. Now, I did want to go ahead and before we end the end the show tonight, I want to talk about the armor and everything in not Classic, in Alpha Strike. One of the interesting things I noticed, if you go through all of the Mad Cat configurations, like it has almost the same amount of armor. So like the Mad Cat Prime for the standard Mad Cat, you have 8 armor, 4 structure, which comes out to 12. You have 9 and 3 on the Mad Cat Mark IV, which comes out to 12. I mean, you have the same amount of protection. You actually mitigate some of that internal damage by having more armor and less structure at the same amount. The other thing I want to point out, if you are considering these two mechs, the Mad Cat Prime is 54 points. It does not have the same damage mitigation properties of the Mad Cat Mark IV. Also, it only has 1 overheat, even though it has similar damage output. It's 554 with 1 overheat, as opposed to 553 with 3, and I also don't think you get overheat long with it. No, you don't. You do have LRM capabilities, but those are generally useless in a competitive scene, and if you're able to use the Ill Clan era mechs, the Mad Cat Mark IV-C just totally outdoes the Mad Cat Prime at being a Mad Cat Prime. So, first things first, personally, I would have gone with the Mad Cat Mark IV-C as the Prime configuration, because, quite frankly, it's like saying, yeah, you can have Mad Cat or you can have better Mad Cat. And the other thing is, I really, really dig the new look of it. And like I've mentioned, if you look at the old miniature, and I'm going to pop it up here again for you real quick. Oh, it is brutal. It is. The old miniature is brutal. This new one is fire. And I really like it. So that is it for today. I'm really glad that you joined me. If you want to support what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, hit the little bell. And if you really, really want to help us out, then go to the Patreon at patreon.com/unicorn company. You can join for, I believe I have a $1 tier at the lowest. But once you get to $5, you start to get to the custom mech cards and all that good stuff. So that is it for today. I hope that you have a great day, great evening, great whatever it is where you are. And this is Carrie signing off. I want to thank my patrons and sponsors, Blind Zen Archer, Boy in a Box, NB Kaiju, Fortress Miniatures and Games, Gus Arkila, Haley Saint, Jamie, Nathan, Richard Johnson, Sarah, Scott, Stephen, and special thanks to Ark Royal Mechworks.